Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Today I've decided to do a presentation on Thanksgiving, and this is going to be an advanced presentation, so I'm not going to be doing it partially in Portuguese and partially in English. So hope you understand everything. If you have any questions, please leave comments at the end in the comment section of YouTube, okay? Or in the comment section on my page. So let's start. I'm going to share my screen and let's see here. All right. Okay, so hopefully you can see this well. I'm going to show you the front page and describe what I'm going to talk about. And then I'm going to give you some ideas about how to celebrate Thanksgiving. Okay, so about Thanksgiving, this will be the history and pronunciation section. Then I will move on to what to do in order to celebrate Thanksgiving the American way, or the way of the people who live in the United States, for those of you who don't like the term American. And then the recipe section. Okay, so pronunciation practice about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day is a national holiday celebrated in Canada, the United States, some of the Caribbean islands, and Liberia. It began as a day of giving thanks for the blessing of the harvest and of the preceding year. Thanksgiving is celebrated on the second Monday of October in Canada and on the fourth Thursday of November in the United States, and around the same part of the year in other places. Although Thanksgiving has historical roots in religious and cultural traditions, it has long been celebrated as a secular holiday. In other words, it is no longer religious. Okay, here we go. History of Thanksgiving. Documentation about how the holiday was first celebrated in the United States is somewhat incomplete. However, we do know it originated in England and was brought to New England and Virginia by Pilgrims and Puritans. Okay. New England is Maine, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, the states in the north. So people from England arrived and said, this is New England, okay? And Pilgrims, it was brought by the Pilgrims and the Puritans. So the Pilgrims are like the settlers, or the people who came, and Puritans gives the impression that these Pilgrims had a sort of religious reason for leaving England. They were Protestants or Calvinists, and they didn't like the way that the Catholic Church was affecting England, okay? So those were the Puritans. The holiday tradition first took place in 1621 at Plymouth in present-day Massachusetts. The feast, okay, the feast is where everybody came together and ate. Okay, so the feast was celebrated to give thanks to the harvest, the preceding year, and to the Almighty God. Okay, so at that time, there were still a lot of people who considered it a very religious holiday. Even today, some people do, give thanks to Jesus, to God. So it is religious still for some people. Abraham Lincoln made it a national holiday in the 1800s, perhaps because it was the first time the Native Americans, okay, in particular the Wampanoags, this is a group of Native Americans, and the European settlers got along. In other words, they kind of they seemed like they were friends at this event, and they shared food. So that's that. Although there's more information about that if you read the National Geographic take on Thanksgiving. And it seemed like, according to National Geographic, it had a lot to do with trade matters also. So that the Wampanoags wanted to get some special knives that the Europeans had in exchange for some pelt or some first beaver fur. So it's another interesting reason why it could have, why the Native Americans could have spent some time there on that particular day. And here we see an image of New England. And in this picture, you can see Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and as I said before, Plymouth is in that area in Massachusetts. So it's right in that picture. So we see New England colonies, middle colonies. So these were all the first colonies in the United States. Okay, so how to celebrate Thanksgiving. Okay, so here's some instructions for you. So first, find people to celebrate with and cook together or have a potluck. A potluck is an event where everybody brings a dish and you all eat together at a table. Okay. Optional, play football. It's very common to play football in the United States on Thanksgiving. I'm not actually sure what the history is behind that, but there are a lot of very important football games on TV on that day, and a lot of people actually go outside and play on the streets. Then you eat together. Drink, of course, and say what you're thankful for. And everybody goes home very, very, very full because there's a lot of food. So let's move on to recipes. Okay, that's not a recipe, but here's some images you can see in this picture. There's a turkey. There's a turkey, some pumpkins, some fall leaves with very pretty colors. Some other pumpkins in the picture on the right. So the first thing I have is cranberry sauce. It's very common at Thanksgiving time, and you can make it at home. It's very quick, and it just requires 3 ingredients: a 12-ounce pack of cranberries, 1 cup of orange juice, and 1 cup of sugar. Or if you are feeling a little bit lazy, you can buy cranberry sauce from a can in the grocery store in the United States. And when you open the can, it will look a little bit like the picture on the right, but don't be afraid. It's okay. This is normal. And it's definitely not as tasty as the homemade version, but it's still part of the dish. You have to have that on your plate if you're having Thanksgiving dinner. Next thing, ooh, I wrote here 30 minutes. I should probably write between 2.5 hours and 4 hours, and definitely not serves 4 to 6. I need to change that. In any case, turkey, of course, is very popular on Thanksgiving. Occasionally, I think more ham is probably more for Christmas. But yeah, turkey is very, very popular for Thanksgiving. And some people deep fry it. Some people bake it in the oven. Most people bake it in the oven. And they also, as you can see in this picture, put stuffing inside of the turkey. So stuffing can include, sausage, can include lots of times bread and vegetables, and maybe some specific spices to add more flavor to the inside of the turkey. And we also baste the turkey. That means that we put some sort of seasoning or flavoring on the outside of the turkey before we put it in the oven. Sometimes I think it's in the middle of the process. In any case, if you don't want to make a turkey, I know that's a lot of work, you can also buy a rotisserie chicken from the supermarket. So everywhere you go in the US, you can always buy a rotisserie chicken. It's also good if you're, with just one other person, you don't want to cook the full meal. That's another option. Next thing here, and the image is not too clear, is mashed potatoes and gravy. So gravy is this sauce that you see in this picture. Most times gravy is actually the drippings or the juice that comes from turkey, and then you pour it on top of the mashed potatoes afterwards. The mashed potatoes, lots of people eat the stuffing from the inside of the turkey, and sometimes I'll show you afterwards. You can make it from a box, and so we use the drippings from the turkey for that normally. It's usually very fatty. It's very delicious. You can also buy this in a package from the grocery store, which I'll show you in a bit. Okay. Yeah, here we go. So you can, if you're feeling lazy, you can get some boxed mashed potatoes from the grocery store. And depending on whether you have turkey or chicken, get the gravy that goes along with it. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I think a lot of people think, oh, Thanksgiving dinner needs to be huge. It's going to take too long to prepare these dishes. But there is an alternative for everything that you want to prepare. So move on to the next one, stuffing. Okay, so I mentioned that before. It's very common to make stuffing inside of the turkey and then eat that. Although I think a lot of people, most people nowadays actually get a casserole dish. So it's a big dish, usually made out of glass or porcelain. And then you put the bread, little chunks of bread inside of it, maybe garlic, vegetables. Some people put apples and fruit, maybe even cranberries inside of that, and sausage at times, or bacon. Depends on what kind of stuffing you want. It can also be vegetarian. A lot of times it is vegetarian. Okay. Or if you decide you're feeling lazy and don't want to make homemade stuffing, or stuffing from scratch, meaning using all the individual ingredients, then you can buy a box of stovetop stuffing mix. Okay, and the last time I had it was when I was a kid, but I remember really liking it. So there you go, and look, ready in 5 minutes. Next thing, sweet potato casserole. So I love, love, love sweet potato casserole. It's kind of like a dessert, to be honest, but definitely it really should be there at Thanksgiving. However, I know it's kind of a pain in the butt to make potatoes and then also sweet potato casserole. If you're feeling lazy, you can also just put marshmallows on the top. I know a lot of people growing up who used to just put marshmallows on top of sweet potatoes, and that was kind of the same as making this full topping with pecans and brown sugar, and this takes a little bit more time. But I don't know, if you're going to cut something, maybe cut that. Next, green bean casserole, right? So casserole is pretty much anything that lands in a dish that looks like this. And here you can see green beans, and on top there are some, they're kind of like fried onions, and it's very good, very delicious. And I got this recipe on her right from Paula Deen, who is an American chef. She has her own TV show on the Food Network in the United States, and she's known for putting a lot of butter into her dishes. So I guarantee this is going to be delicious. There's probably a ton of butter inside of it, and probably not too healthy though. So next one. Oh, okay. If you don't want to make another casserole, you have too many hot dishes, you can just make a salad, right? So add something fresh to it. Last but not least, pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie can either be complicated to make, or you can go to the store and buy Libby's 100% pure pumpkin. I don't know, it's just pumpkin in a can. And it's fairly easy to make. The recipe is on the back of the can. You'll also have to buy pie crust, evaporated milk, and some other ingredients to go along with it. But definitely recommend doing that if you're feeling like you need to make a pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving. Okay. While the food is baking, normally people talk, drink, and play or watch football. Football's on TV, or a lot of people have a football and they go out on the street and play. Okay. Now we see here, this is a picture from the TV show Friends. They have a really great Thanksgiving episode if you want to check that out. And yeah, and then you have to tell everyone what you're thankful for. So you can say, I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my life and everything that's going on in my life. And we always use the preposition for. And remember, if you have a preposition, it always has to be followed by ing if a verb comes afterwards. So for example, I'm thankful for having a wonderful life. I'm thankful for being healthy, right? Just remember that. Okay, so feast we can also use as a verb. So you can have a feast, or you can feast on food, on everything that I just mentioned. And let's move on to the next slide. Okay, the day after, most people eat a turkey sandwich with cranberry sauce. So you can see in this picture, there's little layers. There's the cranberry layer, the turkey layer, and tomatoes, maybe even bacon in this one. Anyway, it's very, very popular. And here are some of the resources I used. Highly recommend checking out this mental floss video. It teaches a little bit about what Americans learn when they're kids, and or what people from the United States learn when they're kids, and how it's actually a lot of that information is not true. This article by National Geographic, the second one in this list, is really, really interesting. This is where I learned about maybe some alternatives to the Thanksgiving, the reason for the Indians or the Native Americans coming to Thanksgiving dinner. That's very interesting. And yeah, what was eaten on Thanksgiving? I think I skipped that slide, to be honest. Let's see if I can jump back through all this delicious food to find it. Did I mention this? Okay. Goose, duck, fish, venison, turkey, lobster, and mussels, stew, beer, cornbread, pumpkin, and squash. These were the items that were eaten on the first Thanksgiving. And the reason for a lot of this fish, lobster, and mussels is because New England is known for these types of food. And I was a little bit surprised by the beer on here. I didn't know that the Pilgrims drank beer. And then the pumpkin, they didn't have pumpkin pie, but they had pumpkin that they cooked as a stew, or like a very thick soup. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to exit now and stop sharing my screen. All right. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please let me know. I know it was a little slow. I didn't practice this before I started, but hope you enjoyed, and talk to you next time. Bye.